Well, my people, thank you for tapping back in. What's up, 100 Years of Wealth family? Hey, since you're here, go ahead and like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. Helps keep the channel growing and helps to motivate me to keep bringing you content. So look, the biggest argument right now, the biggest conversation in basketball is we done with the 90s, right? We done with the 90s. We think the 90s were trash. We keep showing videos of Michael Jordan not having a left hand, or we show low lights from the 90s, etc., right? So my view, that's an attempt to discredit the legends of the 90s with really the goal to uplift a certain icon that's maybe not getting the complete and total, everybody agreeing that he's the GOAT, right? Or I think it's a combination of that as well as other current NBA stars feeling like they want the shine that the previous legends got, and they're going to control the narrative. They're going to write their own narrative. They're going to argue the point when maybe, let's say, the previous legends that were kind of outshined by the big names, they didn't have the ability to, write their own narrative. But that's something arguable. But this video right here, not even going to show you any clips from the 90s to argue that point. What I'm going to show you is how BS that argument is. Complete bullshit. That argument is by showing you some video from, I think it's the 60s possibly. And just taking a look at this, any true basketball fan, any person with basic logic can understand differences, change over time, evolution, and understand how you would really grade the comparison between generations, right? So let's go ahead and dive into this. We'll go from there. So this is a highlight reel of Wilt Chamberlain, one of the big legends from the past, obviously.
That he was the greatest basketball player that ever lived.
I feel like
he was
a lot of the argument that they have a lot of times is that, oh, they weren't athletic back then, or they were plumbers. JJ Redick said something about plumbers. Look at these dudes right here in this video. You think they were just plumbers? Look at the guy even back here. Wilt Chamberlain looks like a beast, but look at the guy right here. Yoked,
athletic,
strong.
It didn't matter whoever walked here.
Look at this dude. So you're telling me he was the only guy playing that was in shape like this? No, dude. People have been athletic, right? There's been athletes, right? So you gotta start there by dispelling that myth that there was just a bunch of average Joes playing basketball back then, and that made it super easy. No, this man was a beast, and if you are of the mindset that he was one of, the only one that was tall and strong back then, you're tripping. There was also Bill Russell, and I'm sure we could go down a list and name a ton of other players that had size, strength, and athleticism that rivals today's. You think, is there anyone as big and as strong as Wilt Chamberlain? Yes, there's a handful, but it ain't like we've advanced so much to where we're just dwarfing the people from the past. No, there's slight improvements, slight strength changes, slight speed changes possibly. But I think if you look back at the 40-yard dash from the 1932 Olympics compared to now, there may be a second difference. You know what I mean? It's not like this vast change in speed. So I think that people say that, and it's just disingenuous. It just tries to make the old athletes look like they were so slow because it was 20, 30 years ago. How about you go 40, 50 years ago and look how athletic these people were? Come on, let's go.
You try guarding that on a basketball court sometime.
This was more than just some big guy who dunked
Drop step, dunk.
Ran him down.
Today, you're not stopping that either, right? Don't act like just because that was in the past that, oh, that's nothing. No, my dude did a drop step, big as hell, and just, let's not act. Let's stop the games, people.
Well, this was a true athlete, and his
nice touch passes. Come on, let's not act like they weren't playing the game.
He's going to the basket.
Dunk. That might have been before goaltending. Put back, slam dunk. They're moving with pace. They got speed. They're not just slowly walking up the court.
And a tremendous demonstration of speed and ability.
Touch pass.
It's just hard for people to fathom
crowded
what
spaces.
we talk about.
You didn't have a three-point line back then.
He did things that
right?
I did.
So you didn't have a three-point line back then. So you are gonna have a more crowded space because you don't have players floating off to the corners and making the floor spread, right?
Chamberlain keeps the pressure on.
A little fake, right? Obviously, the game's gonna evolve, right? Like, obviously, things are gonna look different. There's gonna be things that you see that are gonna look a little bit more dated, style-wise. But it's all about how you competed against your genre, your generation, right? You can't say, oh, was the Ford Mustang from 1964 comparable to the Ford Mustang from 2024? Clearly, it's not. But if you rank them as which car was better, it's going to be a comparison of where that car was during its time of release, how far advanced it was amongst the cars that were currently being released, how bad or how much more desired was it, right? Like that's the comparison, because a Hyundai right now is way more advanced than any car from 100 years ago. But are you going to say that a Hyundai from 2024 is a better car than the 1960 Corvette? Or, you know what I mean? Like, come on, like, you guys are just, like, I'm all about genuine arguments, right? Like, I don't need to uplift the generation that I grew up in as far as basketball to feel better about myself, right? I don't need to uplift a person, an individual star to feel better about myself. If that was the case, I'd be uplifting Kobe, because he's like, my emotional winner, right? He's like the local guy for us in LA. We grew up with him pretty much. He's got the family, girl dad stuff, like his whole black Mamba mentality. Like, he's a great individual that we all have a connection with, especially here in LA. But I still got to give it to MJ, because I'm non-biased. Go ahead and like and subscribe. All right, let's get back into this. Yoink. Little fake. Grab that. Yeah, he's skilled. You know what I mean? Like, skilled, style, athletic, hard to stop.
Chamberlain again underneath. Great shot by Chamberlain.
By the fact that he led the league in assists later on, showed me the pass.
Nice little passes.
Will had all the tools.
You would have to assume that
him all the time.
If he was elite back then, if he was brought up in this world currently with different influences and people that had come before him that had brought the skill level up to a higher point, you would have to assume that that person would be able to take that information and convert it to one of the higher skill sets, would be a top player currently, right? Like you think of Bill Russell, he was able to be part of and a leader for a championship team 8 times. Whether that dude had a 3-point, was it 8 rings I think he had? Whether he had a 3-pointer or could dribble or not, he had what it took to be a winner. So I think personally that would naturally translate to today's game. He might be more of a Draymond Green player, where he has all the defense and the grit and the rebounds, but then also can drop a 3-pointer on you, right? Different game, right? It's going to bring the, certain different things out of players, right? Like, currently we're in a game where, we're post the small ball era where you had, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson for a long period kind of dominating the league based on 2 guards popping out shooting. That's kind of phased out, but the result of that is that you have a smaller league. So bigger players like a Jokic, who also has a little bit of a guard skill set, but doesn't really have to be that fast because he's bigger than everyone, right? He's able to just get into the lane and hold the ball up high, right? Like, you gotta, if you're a real basketball savant, you got to be able to look at the different reasons why we are in a certain state with the game and analyze from that point, as opposed to just, Joker's the best player ever because he has a higher stats. Or it's like, he's a good player, but why is he having an easier time compared to maybe if he would have played in the 90s, where you had way more 7-footers, right? It was a big man's game, so you're going against guys your same size and height more often, as opposed to being an anomaly where it's just really hard for defenders to defend you, even if you are slow as hell, even if you don't get off the ground, right? Come on, you guys, don't make me jump to the screen and fight you. Go ahead, like and subscribe. Stop being a hater.
Because he was asked to do other things.
He can hurt you with a fist like that also, playing the post.
Look,
That was a great
just side note, the guy just drop stepped, dunked two hands, right? This is in 1961 or 60, whatever, right? So dudes were athletic back then. This wasn't just like a league where they were like, I can't move. No, these dudes were athletes. The league had already been active, or basketball had already been a pro sport for many years. This wasn't day one basketball. So that whole like, these guys were plumbers and this and that, that's for the stars of today that really want to discredit the past so that they can try to uplift themselves. Why you got to do that, G? You didn't get the fame that you wanted in your run, Mr. JJ Redick. You know what I mean? Come on, you guys.
Wilt Chamberlain, most valuable player in the National
Give and
Basketball
go.
Association.
Left hand finish.
Obviously,
Stop
as
acting.
that remains
Give and go.
across the whole league.
Get back. Nice
I'm
bad
glad
shot.
the three-point
Nice
line went
touch.
around for him. If he would have figured
Turn
it out,
around,
probably
fade away
too, so.
from like 15 feet. My
My
dude's got a
Gotta
jumper.
play in this era.
There's a lot of big dudes currently that can't shoot that well,
Wilt Chamberlain.
right? That's a long distance bank
Still tries it.
for a big dude. 7 feet plus. Hitting the backboard, soft touch. Fake, fade away. Fade away. Like, let's stop acting like, oh, just that was so slow. He was moving in slow motion. Like, no, dude. 7-footer, fading away, dropping that. Obviously, style differences will change. Things will evolve, you know. But that doesn't represent to me. That doesn't represent to me that you are now better, right? Every car has an air conditioner now. It's standard. Everyone has a step back shot now. It's standard. Just because you have that doesn't elevate you above someone in the past that didn't have that skill set. No shit, you will have that if you play basketball now. You will have a step back. You will have a Euro step. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you will have an alarm system. You will have air conditioner if you're a car now. How much higher are you above your competition? That air conditioner does nothing for you. It's a standard feature now, right? Now, have you played at the highest level and brought your team to a championship and then did that shit again and then did it again and busted a three-peat and then didn't leave your team when it got hard? You feel me? You smell me? Go ahead and like and subscrizzle.
Here's one you can't stop, the fall-away jumper. And he hits this repeatedly.
Fall away, hang, pump, floating.
Fall-away jumper just cannot
Like,
be stopped.
look, this is live action. These dudes are athletic, long, strong. You know what I mean? Like,
76ers automatically have a great number of points.
I've always had a respect for the previous generations. These dudes were not no slouches, no plumbers. You're telling me that you had 7-foot plumbers, JJ Redick? You had 7-foot plumbers, just rolling around, just strong as hell? No, dude. Trying to discredit the past generation, right? Like, the reason why JJ Redick was able to have a career is because of the three-point line, right? Because if there was no three-point line, and I like JJ Redick, I think he's a good guy, I think he's smart, blah, blah, blah. But some of his takes are just more like trying to uplift the current players as opposed to letting the game speak for itself. Fans are knowledgeable. Fans have been watching this for a while. But if you think of a JJ Redick, he is known for 3 points, right? 3-pointers. He's known for running off of a screen and getting a 3-point shot. JJ Redick is probably 6'3", maybe 6'4", if I'm correct. JJ Redick would have had a tough time in the league if there was not a 3-point line, right? And the reason is because he is not known for some crazy mid-range game, especially a mid-range game off the dribble. He's not known for breaking somebody down and pulling up and getting his own shot. He's not known for driving to the basket and getting his own shot. He solely had a success based on shooting 3-pointers coming off of screens. So my point being is, like, respect I respect his craft, but respect the craft of the people that came before you and understand why you have the success you have. Not to say that you maybe couldn't have adjusted your game or changed or had a different approach. Maybe you could have. I could respect and appreciate that. But for what your game was, I think it's a big result of the 3-point line and the fact that you're able to run off and create that spacing and then hoist up a quick 3-point line. One element of basketball. To me, I think what makes a great basketball player is someone that can drive to the basket, post you up and fade away, post you up and back you down and go up strong, pull up for the 3-pointer, make their free throws, right? Like, I feel like I'm a well-rounded basketball player. I just played this weekend, balled out, put some of the highlights and some of the warm-ups online. But, you know, these guys like to really, I was a great 3-point shooter, so my opinion matters. It's like, yeah, but can you even call yourself out? Can you provide clarity on why you think you may have had success compared to previous generations, since you want to call out generations, right? Come on.
With his competitive spirit that he had, that's the one thing about Wilt. Wilt did not like to lose. He always wanted to
Dudes
win.
was on him.
So if he'd have been
Hands
6'4",
up, both hands,
6'5",
strong
6'6",
defense,
I think
putting
he
the
would have
body
had
on him.
determination. He
Like,
probably
that was
would have
Bill
more
Russell
that
too.
killer instinct also.
High, come on, you see how high that shot was? Top of the backboard with spin. Look at these dudes. Bill Russell is yokemed. Bill Russell is not some little tiny guy just out there getting bullied. This dude's like 7 foot as well, strong as hell, dominant, aggressive, been a champion. Like, let's stop acting like these dudes are slouches. You can even look over here. Whoever this dude was had some muzzle ripple. This dude too. Let's stop playing around with these dudes, you know?
He held back most of the time and didn't try to dominate with his physical body.
Give the
And I
previous
thought, quite frankly,
legends
that he was
their
more
credit.
Of a finesse player
It
than a
doesn't
power player. And
discredit
yet, when
the
he
current
did turn on the
generation,
power,
right?
exert.
But what you do see, look, once again, these dudes are all in shape, tall dudes playing basketball. Basketball is not a new sport, right? It wasn't new at this time either. But what you see is defense being played. Everyone's on their man, right? The guy right here, he's watching out. You could see he's sensing who's behind him. He's watching this dude. This dude's trailing his guy. This guy's trailing this guy. This guy's clogging the lane. Today's game, let's be honest, what you see is a bunch of people floating around the 3-point line because the offense is floating around the 3-point line. And everyone kind of gets to hang back. And then you also see, like, you know, on the out of bounds play, instead of someone pressing full court or you know, getting defense on them full court, the point guard just launches the ball and they're like, wow, he threw a football pass. All right, man. All right. What? Can you guys be authentic? Do you guys, you know? Damn it.
He was
Defense being played.
The
The guy in the back was trying to block the shot. Defense, look how crowded that space is.
Now, I mean, there's 15 7-footers now. There were 3 in your year.
Well, I disagree with you there. I think there was a lot of big guys played. Guys who weighed more than I did. A few guys taller than I was. A lot of 7-footers. But
Yeah,
today
dude,
the guys are much more athletic.
as a kid growing up in the 80s, collecting basketball cards, and this is obviously previous to the 80s, but these dudes were taller back then. It was more of like a requirement to have a 7-footer on your team. And a lot, Manute Bol, Mark Eaton, I think his name was. He's like one of the highest like blockers in history. You know, Rick Smits is in the 90s. But I can do the, you know, go on the list and pull up all these massive dudes that were playing in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It was a requirement. We didn't have the 3-point line where just having a shot could get you far. You know what I mean? So, you know.
Athletic. But I think sometimes when you have all that going for you in your body, how is your head?
Right? So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I think you guys get my point. The skill set was there. Is it the same skill set as today's game? No. Has the skill set advanced? Of course, right? But that's not how you compare when you're trying to come up with what's better. You want to compare, in that era, how much more dominant were you above your competition? How far advanced were you above your competition? How much of a, what do they say? How much ahead of your game what do they say? He was ahead of his time. How much ahead of your time were you, right? That's a thing with Jordan. He was far ahead of his time. He was far ahead of his competition, right? Kobe Bryant during his time frame, it was a definitive Kobe Bryant was the best in the league. And then LeBron came in, they started to have a little bit of that argument, but it wasn't until Kobe stopped winning championships that LeBron actually won a championship, right? Until Kobe got into his later years and started to have, like on and off injuries, not really like any sort of stable team around him. That's when LeBron started to win. So Kobe had a strong run where it was definitive that he was head above the rest. He was the closest thing that the NBA had saw to Jordan, and everyone respected him as the heir apparent, right? So LeBron James, just to circle this conversation, I think he's definitely ahead of his competition in a certain way, right? Like athleticism, longevity, those things are clear, right? Physical ability to get to the basket, those things are clear. But can we be honest and say that there's tons of people in the league and that have been in the league during his time frame that have had a better shot, better dribbles, better ball control? The guy leads the NBA history in turnovers, right? Like, come on, like let's at least take that into account when we're having this conversation. During his run, Steph Curry has 4 rings and beat him 3 out of 4 in the finals. How can you not address that? Would you honestly say that LeBron has better handles than Steph Curry or KD or Kyrie? Or would you mainly say that LeBron's stronger physically than those players, right? So I just want people to have more of an authentic conversation around the current league, the previous league, the previous generations, the 90s. Like I'm gonna make some videos showing you videos from the 90s, but if you can look back and think of the 60s and see that these dudes were physically on point, that there was skill set there and it was only going to continue to advance. It's just crazy to think that the 90s were like, they didn't have any skill set. Are you crazy? Have you watched an actual game? Not just the highlights. Go watch the game. What you'll notice is that everyone's playing tight defense, right? You're not just getting open looks, right? There is a vested interest in defending, right? And then also on top of that, these teams stay together longer, right? How are you, like anyone that's watching me, please like and subscribe. Give me a comment. Tell me if I'm being authentic right here. In the 90s, these teams stayed together longer. In the 80s, they stayed together longer, right? If you remember the Los Angeles team, we had AC Green, we had Orlando Woolridge, we had Michael Cooper, we had Larry Drew, we had Sam Perkins. And these people were on our team for at least like 4 or 5 year runs, probably longer. These were like known to be on the team, right? If you went into New York, you were going to face John Starks, you're going to face Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason, Patrick Ewing. There's a couple of names that I'm missing, but these were groups that stayed together for a while. In the 90s, if you went up to Indiana, you had Rick Smits, Dale Davis, I think his name is. You had Antonio Davis, Dale something. The 90s guys know what I'm talking about. You have Reggie Miller. But you had a unit that was there. They played together. They knew each other. They worked, it was like you were going to face them. Detroit, you were facing a squad, right? It wasn't like every year these teams were changing, and every other year these teams were tanking. And you get what I'm saying? I love basketball. I'm gonna keep watching. So it's not like a thing of like, I'm here to discredit this. I just want an authentic conversation that includes all the damn information. Let's not just take little bits and pieces of information that support our story, right? Let's really think about the comparisons and try to compare apples to apples, or at least, give credence to the differences, right? Do you really think it's easier to play a team that just got put together in the last year or two? Or do you think it's harder to play grown men that have been playing in the same city, same team for the last 7 to 8 years? Larry Johnson up there in New York, right? Like you would go up there and you're basically getting bullied around, pushed around by Anthony Mason, Charles Oakley, Xavier McDaniel, you know what I mean? Like, so I think if there's like a little bit of credence and understanding given to those things, then we can have a better conversation and start to realize that, yes, there are differences that have taken place over the last 10 years in the league that have really, in a lot of perspectives, kind of softened the competition. You know what I mean? Like more players are more focused on just offense. That's why you'll have people still getting massive contracts, but not really known for any defense. You know what I mean? Like James Harden has been known to not play defense, and he'll still sign a big contract. It's a change in mentality. While before it was like that was kind of a package. You know, you needed to have a defensive side to be considered a credible player, right? So things change. I do get it. I think the game is better when players stay on teams longer because there's a vested interest for the fans, right? You root for players over and over. You feel a connection to them. Then also, and I also think it creates a better cohesiveness within the team, you know? And I'm all about player empowerment, right? There has to be a happy medium where the players are getting what they deserve financially, and, you know, getting taken care of the proper way. And at the same time, I think there should be a good consideration for the fan experience, right? Like not just going where it's easy, but creating that competition, that long driving rivalry, right? Like there could have been, you know, I'm sure in the 80s when the Celtics and the Lakers were going back and forth, I'm sure if they really wanted to, they could be like, hey, let's try to get that guy on the Celtics to come over here. But that would have been like sacrilegious, right? Like, we're like, Celtics, ugh. We felt like they were like aliens. Like we hate their fans. We don't want to talk to them. We don't, you know what I mean? Like, and that's good for the sport. You know what I mean? Like it's good for the sport, right? Like it's good when people are vested and they feel passionate about it. Like last story, I'm gonna let you guys go. 2008, I was in Atlanta, where my mom was living at the time, and I was out there with her husband and his family, which they were from like Chicago and like more East Coast area, but this was the year that the Lakers and Boston were in the finals, you know? So they were all going for Boston, right? Like obviously you're from the East Coast, it's probably on some beat LA shit, but they were all going for Boston. As you probably know, we lost that year, and that was the worst loss for me as a fan, because we're there. This is like the first time we're back in the finals since Shaq had left, and I'm watching this, and we lost. I think the last game that we lost was bad. It wasn't even close, and they were so happy. But like as a true Laker fan, that was like sadness, right? Like depression, you know, like within reason, like a little depression kicks in. But that's good though, right? It's good to be that vested and have that type of feeling, and you know, around your team. Once players start shifting around, if the Lakers would have been like, "Hey, we're getting you know, Paul Pierce," I would have been like, "You're gonna get Paul Pierce now, the guy that just beat us? Aren't we supposed to rally up and go beat him now?" You feel me? You smell me? So that's where I come from as a fan. You know what I mean? Like, I never liked the idea of these dudes teaming up to win. It was redonkulous when Kevin Durant, after getting beat by Golden State, asked to be traded to them. I'm like, what the fuck is the world coming to? That was the craziest thing. I'm like, where is the love for competition? Maybe go back to the management team, make a couple of moves, get like a little couple of players that you think could help you guys out. Look at where you guys could have improved, but don't just jump ship unless you got some crazy story about what's going on with you and management, or just something that can't be resolved. It's like, come on, my dude. But anyways, hey, look, thanks for sitting here chatting with me, guys. 100 Years of Wealth. I do appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe. Hey, the Cash App there, if you guys want to donate to the channel so that we can continue to make good content and start putting together some guests for our podcast that's going to be coming up, donate. We'll greatly appreciate it, and we'll give you a shout out on the channel. Once again, 100 Years of Wealth to you and yours. Stay healthy and wealthy. Like and subscribe. Peace.